we're live. One time for your mind. Alisha,
Hey.
please tell us what you do.
So I'm a professional photographer and videographer, and I'm freelance. So it's me, myself, and I. I like to say, Alisha is the boss, and Leash is the worker. Yeah. So that's pretty much me. It's
Develop
kind of
a bit of a split personality as a result of that.
Literally, there's a meme out there, and it's like, I hate my boss, and then someone's like, aren't you self-employed? And I was like, did I stutter? Because literally, like, Alisha will like book everything. Alisha likes to make money, right? So Alisha will book everything. Alisha will like get all the jobs and kind of fit them in as much as she can, and then at stupid hours or whatever, you know, Alicia's the one who says you have to work a 16-hour day. Alicia's the person who actually has to do it and goes, what the fuck? Like, yeah, it's quite funny. Like, I'll get up in the morning and be like, why did I book this? And I get there and I'm like, it's kind of fun. But it really gets like that when you're self-employed. You kind of got like your split minds of like all the different like areas you have to hit to be successful. So yeah, it's kind of funny.
Awesome. Well, you're not just any old photographer either. You do some really interesting stuff. Yeah. You know, because I mean, like, let's face it, there's, you know, photography is a popular field. A lot of people are into it. Yeah, I mean, and it's a fun field. I would say so. You know, like it's artistic, it's visual. Like we all love a good picture, but you get involved in some really cool projects. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So I always said I had two pillars in, like, if I kind of wanted to split like who are you as a person, I had like a sport pillar and I also had like an art pillar, right? And so it's really cool because all through uni and everything like that, I actually didn't want it. So I did graphic design at AUT, just
that way. Yeah.
My directions obviously shit. And then I did communications as well. So I kind of want to go in that area. And then I did do photography at uni. So fun fact, I had no interest at school, like nada. And in year one, it's compulsory. And I remember like being a bit pissed off. I was like, oh, fuck's sake, I have to buy a camera, you know? And they already told us like, oh, you need a MacBook Pro when you come to this course. And so it was just kind of like one thing after another. So I was like, seriously, I have to get a camera now. Reluctantly bought one, did the class, fell in love instantly. But all through uni, even like my design projects and stuff, so this was all the way up to maybe my last year, I tried to steer away from sport because all my life I had people tell me, you can't make a career out of sport. You can't, like, anything like that, like there's nothing really, it's really hard to get into, blah, blah, blah. And so I thought, okay, I just want to, you know, step away or try and broaden my horizons and stuff and kind of work in different fields. Funny enough, my worlds just collided. Like that idea went out the window and I just started to get more and more kind of sports stuff, because the thing is, in New Zealand, we're so small and it's all about your network. So me just being involved in sports so much, it was kind of like I knew those people who knew people, and then suddenly I'm landing all these like really interesting jobs. And then it's all just come about who I know. And then because New Zealand's so small, I get onto these like awesome things. So I've done some pretty like whack stuff for work. Like I've done, so I've been outside the Sky Tower taking photos of a guy riding a motorbike around the thing. I've also been on the top of the Harbour Bridge looking down, shooting that. I've flown to God knows where, covering so I work mainly for our athletics team, our New Zealand athletics team. And so, you know, going overseas, covering that, and then, you know, I find myself on the back of a motorbike, covering the Auckland Marathon, which actually is pretty damn fun to do right now. And yeah, and then I've worked with like all these different brands and sporting organizations and events, and then I do lots of corporate work as well, so I end up getting my nose in like other random stuff like that. So yeah, I'm all over the place. It's so funny, but it's really funny because everyone tells you, oh, if you want to make money as a photographer, you do weddings. I do a few. I enjoy it. I mean,
that's how I met you.
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And it's fun, but I don't just do them. Like I think I limit to myself like 5 a year so I can still enjoy it. Because I do enjoy weddings. Like it's like a big party. Like it's heaps of fun. Stressful, but fun. But yeah, it's interesting. You just kind of make what you can. And then here I am. working all over the place.
It's funny you mentioned that about weddings, you know, because I know a few photographers, and for most part, a lot of people don't actually enjoy weddings that much. But in saying that, I think, you know, because like I've observed how it works, and then you know, they're very professional. They kind of stand around like, I came here to do a job. You, on the other hand, I'm not saying you're not professional, but
I know what you mean.
you know, like you're. To me, you're like the bass player of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, because like every band has a bass player, but it's just some guy in the back. But the Red Hot Chili Peppers have Flea. You know, that's like the most involved bass player of all time. Like he is, you know, he's there. You know about him. So and that's you with a camera at a wedding.
Lol.
You know, so you're very involved. You're part of the party. You know, like you kind of you set the mood. Because I remember when you were there at an engagement. It wasn't the engagement party. It was the
afterwards.
The whole stag do and hens do that eventually came together.
Yes.
Yeah, like, and you were over there getting it in on the dance floor and everything, but at the same time you were doing your thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, like it's really cool to see that, you know, you enjoy your job so much. You're able to do that as well. You know, you kind of have that kind of control, I think, you know, because it's, you know, like one thing is to be able to focus and make things happen, but the other thing is to kind of have enough skill to be able to do other things and enjoy the atmosphere you're in while still doing a good job, you know, so you're not kind of, you know, your things don't start flying out the window.
Everything's out of focus. Like, I think that's so important, because I know with any sort of photography I do, because I work with people, like pretty much all the shit I do, like everything I explain is involving people. You know, the very least people thing I do would be photographing a space, whether office space, urban space, that is designed for people. So all my stuff involves people, and I'm very like, I have to bring the vibe, because I need to reflect the vibe in my images. So if I'm turning up like a stiff brick, then I'm going to get just a bit like hesitant people. So I think that's good feedback that you said that, because I feel like if I'm like on that level and I'm chill, people can relax around me and like not feel like I'm like judging them for the photos, you know, like little creeper like on the side, kind of going like, you know, or like just kind of like a bit like, ooh, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like
you don't feel so pressured to like pose and act a certain way. I think that was the main thing, is, you know, because otherwise there are people, you know, there are people that really don't like that kind of stuff. Like they hate photographers for that reason, because it's just like, I don't look good, like go away. With you, it's just like, relax, we're chilling, boom, boom, take a picture, okay.
Oh, good. I'm glad you said that, because it's so true. And even like weddings and stuff, like, I just photographed an event on the waterfront with Lululemon and a new company called Strong. Well, the overseas company called Strong, and they it's like a gym, and they specialize in this. Okay, it's like a Pilates reformer crossed with a rower. It looks like hell. It's like 30 minutes of hell. Yeah. But it looks fun.
I've seen it on Instagram, actually,
Yeah. And like, so I had a job with them, and they had a DJ playing, and they were playing banger after banger. And you could everyone could see me in the background and be like, oh, banger! Like, you know, and that's the thing. Like, I'm like visibly enjoying myself. Yeah, people can relax around me and everything. So, and that's like with weddings, like they are very tiring. So if I only do, for myself personally, if I only do 5 a year, then it's kind of enough for me not to like get a bit stale, because I know some who like they just love it, and like they will book 2 a weekend or some, I know, it's insane. And they are still like, they're those type of people who just love people, and they just love it, and they just love being part of the party. But it's a tough gig for them. Like, it's not easy, because pretty much all their work is in summer, and so they just kill themselves in summer. And then winter, you get the odd that drips in, and you kind of have to book yourself out a year in advance. And so it's kind of like, like hats off to a full-timer. Like, you can have it. I'll get the dregs.
You mentioned being on the back of a motorcycle for a marathon. How does that work? I've always wondered, because you know, like you always see these motorcycles go by, and you always think like, what the hell are they doing? But like, what's it like being on the back of a motorcycle having to take photos? It sounds pretty pretty damn difficult.
Well, I stop it. So there's two ways. So you can get rails on the motorbike, and a lot of the videographers will have the rails on so they can film while on the bike. I don't need to as such, because if I'm sitting on the bike, I've only got one plane of view. I can't move around. So I tell them to pull over. But it's kind of cool. So I've got my gear on a harness. I mean, you've seen it. And I just kind of chuck in my lap, hold on the bike, and then go. And then I literally just tap and say, pull over, get off the bike, get my helmet off, take some photos. It's pretty fun, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I go through the whole, so this is for Auckland Marathon, I go through the whole Auckland Marathon course. I'm one of the very few people who can just walk on the Harbour Bridge, which is actually sick. Like, it's like a pretty good novelty. Like, I can see why people want to run it. And when they run it, they stop in the middle of the bridge, take a selfie and keep going, because the view's insane. But it's cool. It's just a whole new experience as well. Like, you've got to think about little things like making sure that you are one with the bike, so you don't put off your rider, so your rider doesn't crash. You know.
Well, fair play, yeah. Because I mean, I ride a motorcycle, and if somebody starts kind of moving around on the back, like, you definitely start start responding to it.
And some do. Like, they kind of don't realize. Like, my brother rides bikes as well, and so I've done this 4 times. So my first time, he kind of told me, it's like, okay, like, just be prepared for this. Like, just be prepared. This is he took me on the back of his, like, sport, like, Kawasaki, not like the ones I'm on. The ones I'm on are like more touring ones, just to kind of get what it feels like. But he was like, like, your weight is going to affect it. But I'm always like the only girl, for starters, and I'm not like the largest person. So every time there's like a lineup of the media riders, and when they allocate us, and I can see the guy's face is like, because it is like, it's, you would know, like, it's like weight, and sometimes the ones who are filming on the bike might move around and stuff, and that's scary. So I kind of just sit there and go to the guy, like, how do I, like, be one with the, how do I make us not crash? Like, yeah, but it's fun. It's a cool thing that I get to do for, like, work.
Yeah, no, it sounds really amazing. It sounds like you get a lot of variety out of your work.
So much variety. I think
that's what makes it most enjoyable.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I remember like hooning through, it was like Devonport. And I'm sitting on the back of the bike, and I've got my cameras here, and I look like we're not going quick, because you can't go quick on course because these runners. And I'm kind of just chilling, and I was like, these people are probably like, this girl has a mean job. Like, she's just sitting there, like, chilling, like, sup? Like, I even, like, walk past and be like, hey. Like, it's so, it's fun. Like, it's so physically demanding, though, shooting. Like, you're getting yourself in all these, like, dumbass positions. It's kind of like, I don't even think about my body when I like, shots first, and I'll be like, oh, I'm sore. I was like, oh, maybe because you squat, like, 1,000,000 times. Or you, like, was in this weird, like T-Rex, close to T-Rex, for ages and stuff. And so you wake up next morning sore, but if you're enjoying it, it's fine. It's fun. Especially something like that, like, pretty sweet gig.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
In terms of the events that you do, obviously you said, you work a lot with New Zealand athletics and whatnot. Have you done much overseas travel with that?
Yeah, so I've done 2 World Championships, 1 Commonwealth Games, 1 Olympic Games, and in 2 months' time, God, that's just reminding me, I got stuff to do. A couple months' time, I'm heading over to the States for my 3rd World Championships, and then fly straight away to Birmingham, UK for my 2nd Commonwealth Games. So I've done quite a few internationals. It's funny, so I think it was, like, I've been an athlete my life, so it's like, it's like this weird athlete mentality when you're so like, I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to, like, do whatever I can to get there. So I remember watching the Olympics in Rio from my living room. I love the Olympics. Like, every year since as long as I can remember, I remember being plonked down in front of the screen for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it is. My worst ever grade at school and uni is right when the Olympics is on. Like, I'll be like, average is pretty good, and then it's like, and then back up again. Yeah, I just love it. I just love just sitting there and just watching these athletes go. And it was in Rio, because I kind of just started photography a little bit more. That's when I looked at it and go, I'd already started working for Athletics New Zealand for like a year before, and I remember watching it going, I kind of want to be in Tokyo. And so I kind of have a bit of a pre-midlife crisis where in 2017, so I knew World Championships was in London, so easy to get around, English-speaking country, and then I knew that the team got one pass, so that's like an accreditation to go in. So like not everyone's guaranteed. You have to like each country's allocate a certain amount because we're small. We get like none, one. And so I asked my federation. I go, hey, can I have that? And they're sitting there going, sure, but like thinking like we don't have budget for this. Like, huh? And they said, don't worry about it. Like I just want to be there. Can I have the pass and I'll go? And they're like, sure. Here's the code. Do what you like. And and I just dropped stupid money and went. So I finished my study and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go. And it set me up for all my other trips after, because I proved myself. It's like one of those things when you're wanting to get to that level of sports photography it's like a real chicken egg situation, is you have to prove yourself to kind of get jobs, but you can't get jobs unless you do it yourself. So they want someone who's done it before, but to do it before, you need somehow.
So it's kind of like the investment pretty much paid off in that sense. So you kind of had to bankroll yourself to get yourself in, and then after that, it's like, okay, well, now you've shown us what you can do. We'll actually give you some jobs. We'll pay for that.
Exactly. Yeah. And then even just like coming home, and then the work I got, just like the PR of being at a World Championships, was amazing. And it kind of just keeps setting you up. It's just like, every single year I go, and it's amazing. And then London was probably the best one to start with because the track itself was the easiest one to shoot at. But it's cool because now I've got friends all over the world who are athletics photographers that I see at every, like we message, just before I came here, we're like, like where you staying, blah, blah, blah. Like we starting to plan some stuff for when I go to World Champs. But it's cool. So like it's like a whole, like we've got a little squad going on. There's like a few of us like from different countries. It's so cool. And you kind of just go over and like now I feel like I belong because I've been to so many. And so it's cool. I get to travel. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, no, that really sounds amazing. And I think like one of the kind of, one of the important points to take away from that, just like what you mentioned, I think the whole chicken egg situation where, you really kind of had to back yourself and go there. Because I mean, like when you talk about this, about how you just kind of finished uni, right? And, you have this opportunity, which, really all you got is a pass to go in. You got nothing else, you got to back yourself otherwise. Like what was going through your mind at the time? Like how did you feel? Were you?
I was pretty nervous.
Yeah.
Like when I kind of just did it. And, I was working these part-time jobs at, I think I was working at like retail while I was at uni. Then I went to work as a receptionist as a physio. And so I was working these jobs to kind of pay for this trip. But I definitely, like I was, just before it happened, I was definitely real nervous. And just kind of being in it's like being in the unknown as well. And it's like never shooting this before. I'd never actually traveled by myself before either. And I decided to, and I'd never been to Europe either. The furthest I'd been was the States when I was 12. And so I decided my first solo trip was going to be to the other side of the bloody planet. Nice. And so, real nervous. Like, there's all the things that you're like, I've never traveled before. Holy shit, okay, this is happening. And then being in the actual situation itself, you're like trying to plan things. I had to remind myself when I was in the track, I was like, all tracks are the same. You just got 50,000 people around you, and everything's the same. The athletes, like all the events are run the same. You might have like the pole vault might be at a slightly different spot, but it's all the same thing. And so I had to remind myself, like, you've done this for years. It's just in a bigger stage. So I think, it's all about just backing yourself and then like rising to the occasion, because you're not going to get. It's the international events like that. It's the hardest thing you're going to shoot because you've got like almost everything working against you. You can't just run around and like do what you like, Like for example, my debut. Okay, shit. So my debut, I had someone jumping in that event. And so how it works, if you want to go inside the track, you get one jump. And you have to only go in when your country person is going. And so if you don't have anyone in your country in that event, you can't go in. And so here is like my first ever bloody thing, and I went infield, and I got one chance, and then I had to leave. And it was fine, I got it, thank God. But I remember sitting there going like, holy shit, like kind of shaking, like just can't, like, okay, I'm pretty sure, do snipers do this? Like they do the breathe in, breathe out. Yeah, we do that too. So we like are steady. So it's like doing that and just, okay, be steady, you're fine, you get good, blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, it's like, yeah, my first day was like completely thrown in a deep end, but it's either like, I don't know, rise to the occasion or crumble under pressure. So good to know I didn't crumble, lol.
No, well, that sounds like a really, really inspirational story in that sense, because, like you had to put a lot on the line. You kind of, one shot, one opportunity kind of thing. And
sport, fuck.
yeah, and but at the same time, you cracked it, and now now you got the dream job.
Yeah, which is cool. And then it kind of gives you a little bit like people in other situations as well, which is kind of funny. They see you can do that, which means, oh, you can definitely do this event, or you can do this job, or like, oh, can you bring your expertise of like sport and athletes to this commercial gig? So yeah, so it's kind of like it's all worked out. But yeah, my midlife crisis. So yeah, that's fun. I love it.
Especially at the Olympics, did you get to see any like really, really famous athletes? Because you've got Olympics are an interesting thing because on one hand, like you got all these upcoming athletes. On the other hand, you do sometimes in some sports have some real kind of world renowned athletes. Like the Usain Bolts of the world. Yeah. So did you get to see many of them kind of more in person?
This time, no, because of COVID. So because of COVID, they like pretty much like had to be very separate in how they dealt with things. So that was cool. Like not only my first Olympics, but I did the weird one, which is what everyone's calling it.
Well, yeah, it's like it's a historical moment. Yeah.
So it's like one of those things where there was no book. I mean, the Olympics was so stressful even leaving there because we were all going, what's going on? What can we do? What can't we do? Are we even going to have any kind of access? Because it's never happened before. We've had Olympics cancelled, but I don't think we ever had one postponed, and we never had one in like a pandemic. So everyone's like, shit. But you do see it's like the best of the best, and then being in like working athletics for so long, it's my sport, so being interested in it, you see, it's pretty awesome. Like especially we're the closest to them, so I've got the best seat in the house. So you've got the track, and then us, and then the crowd, the zero crowd, but in theory crowd. So, and there'll be times when they'll just walk past you, the coaches are behind you as well, and so you've got a barrier, and we were sitting down below, and you'd have the athletes, like you'd have these like superstars just like looking over you as well. Like I've heard Usain Bolt, so in London it was his last season. I've heard him like touching distance, like obviously you can't touch him, like don't be that person, but you're literally, and sometimes I remember so the most like kind of starstruck moment was in, there was like the women's 4x400 team. Well, even these guys are individual events as well, but you've got like Alison Felix, who, I don't know if you know, she's like the most decorated female track and field athlete ever. I looked up to her when I was like young, running 400s, and so we had her like right there, which was pretty cool. And then you had the most stacked team ever, and there's a track nut. You're just like, holy shit, this team's like amazing. And we were kind of chilling afterwards, taking pictures of ourselves on the top of the barrier, just of the back of the track. And they came up walking, and so you'd ask, and so you'd go up to them and say, oh, like, may I have a photo? And then they're like, yeah, absolutely. And so like, it's like literally like this distance before us, you see these like superstars, and so yeah. But when you're in that situation, you have to remember that we're like past the fan stage, which is interesting. So I work with a lot of I've worked with some like big names, like even just like commercial, like, or just, you're past like portraits or whatever, you're past the point of like a fan, that you have to kind of get past that, like stop losing your shit, that oh my God, it's you.
Yeah,
And
well,
then you
you're a professional.
Yeah, you got to be professional, but it's still pretty cool. Like, I remember that little interaction, even though it was so simple, and it was just me. Well, that's the other thing. Like, I was surrounded by people who were like barking at them. They're like, hey, 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 you know, and I'm sitting there like this little Kiwi going, hey, excuse me, you know, like, is it all right to get a photo? Like, in that tone. And then, I don't know, maybe they responded to like, oh, this person is actually being nice and treating me like a person. But that was really cool. So there's definitely times when you're like, oh my God, that's, yeah. So pretty sick. So that's pretty cool, yeah.
So, I mean, and in terms of, like, for example, with Olympics, are you kind of restricted only to athletics, or do you kind of do all sorts of events? Does that... How does that work? Because I can I can understand that if it's like, okay, if it's a the world champion championship of athletics, I mean, cool, that's athletics. But then with Olympics, you obviously have all sorts of other sports. I mean, there's even skateboarding in that now. There's taekwondo, boxing, swimming, etc. Yeah. Do you get to get involved in any of these sports on the professional capacity, and if not, at least on the personal one?
This time was a bit different. Is you had to prepare and plan days, like your day ahead, just because I think they were doing it to like make sure the right amount of numbers were in to, like, I don't know, contact tracing or whatever. Yeah. Fucking COVID, honestly. And so I actually worked for our New Zealand hockey teams, the Black Sticks.
Yeah.
And so I had 2 sports, which was cool. So I got to be turf side with them, which was actually so fun, because how it works for hockey is, which actually any team sports in the Olympics, is like you have the teams going and they start warming up, and then you get called on, and you literally walk, like, you've got the turf, and then you're right, there's like the barrier next to it, and you like walk out onto the turf just before, like, there's like a time you're called on, and then you can't leave. And you're literally sitting on the edge of the turf. It's so cool. And so I was lucky enough, I got to experience that. And then I got to experience our national anthem played every game, which was always like amazing. And yeah, like, I would have loved to go out and shoot some other sports, which if I had a free day, I probably would have tried to plan it. But because Tokyo was so big, and then we weren't sure, like, I don't know, like, with too many people on the bus, you have to wait for the next one because they had to social distance everything. You didn't want to risk missing the thing you're getting paid for because you're having fun shooting another sport. But I was happy with shooting just hockey and athletics. It was such a cool, like, a real different way to approach both sports. And like, I've never played hockey in my life. I've shot it a few times a few years ago. So that was quite fun to just be really reliant on like instincts to kind of understand the game and like how to shoot it and everything. But yeah, so it was cool. I did get to do another sport, which was fun. Yeah. But yeah, maybe one day like I'll have a free day, because at Com Games I'm shooting hockey and athletics as well, and comms is way more condensed timetable, so I don't actually know I'll have time to do anything else. But it's all good. Like, it's all fun.
What would you shoot if you could?
I think BMX would be pretty cool. BMX racing. I've shot a bit of BMX before, and it's pretty fun. Like, it's pretty violent, but like it's pretty cool. What else would I like to do? I quite like the extreme kind of stuff. So skateboarding would be kind of fun. Gymnastics. That would be awesome. I think it's really hard to shoot gymnastics because of where it is. Like, you are quite far away, but just watching gymnastics is, I do love, like, with my images, like, I do love the kind of images where it's like human environment, like flying human in
very
space.
Dynamic. Yeah. Because I mean, I've seen your photos. I've had a look at your photos, and I'm like, that's really cool. I think that's what really makes a good photographer as well. Is like, one thing is to take a picture, another is to take a picture at the correct moment, because that moment really, what you're capturing is, it's it's separate to what we've seen. Because I've seen this happen. But it's just gone just like that, and so for you to kind of be able to capture that still, that moment in time, I think that's what really makes a good photographer.
I think it makes it fun as well.
Yeah.
You're like freezing that moment like forever. So I think, BMX and gymnastics is probably the things.
And I can see why you kind of, you have to have that whole like sniper breathing pattern to to capture that, because it's literally just that snap, like millisecond, really. Yeah.
And you have to be kind of calm. Like you're living on this, like, so in 100-meter sprint, right? Where I like to position, secrets out, where I like to position myself is 50 meters after the finish line. Well, like halfway around the bend. Shittest angle in the world. I cannot tell who wins. But the reason I go there is because the winner celebrates in that plane and runs towards you. So all the money shots is there.
The emotion, yeah.
Yeah, but you have 2 seconds to figure out who won. Like you're literally like kind of shooting one eye open. And so you have to be calm enough. So, and the other thing is, new cameras are starting to change, but the way you shoot essentially, especially at 100 meters, is you want to obviously focus on the person who wins. You don't want your camera focusing on the next person. And so there's a little spot in your viewfinder that aims, like literally like a sniper, you got to aim. And so if you're jumping around, it's useless. So you have to be like excited but calm. And then I like hand holding my gear. I don't like using a monopod so I can move. And so I'm gonna like lock in. But like you got like a second or two to try figure out who's won. And if you don't know, you kind of have to wait and react to the reaction. Yeah. Because they know. Quite often the time, they would know who's won. And so you're kind of shooting a little bit everyone. And then like the men's 100 was like that. I had no idea who was going to win. And I was looking around, I was like, who have you got your money on? And everyone's like, fuck, I don't know. And so you're kind of shooting a little bit of this person, a little bit of this person, trying to judge it, trying to guess, and then as someone reacts, you go to that
we got
person.
a positive ID, let's go.
And like, it's so fast. And so you have to make sure that you're not kind of like shaking, nervous and stuff like that. None of that can happen. You just have to be like ready.
Nice.
It's the most like 100-meter sprint is the most like nerve-wracking thing to shoot because it's 9 point something seconds, and then your window is like 2 seconds.
Yeah. No, I mean that's really crazy. That's really crazy. That's all like that's top level photography.
Yeah.
I can't imagine like anything much more intense to take photos of.
No,
really.
That's a good point. Yeah. Like I would put that's like the hardest thing. Is that race because it's like even like 200 or even like because that's that bit longer, it's a bit easier. But that 100 meters, 60 meters indoor would be the hardest. Yeah, I know that exists, but it's pretty cool. But being able to do that, and the thing is when you shoot these things, it trains you to be able to like. Someone made this analogy that photography is like hunting, like you're like hunting for the angles, like, and then you fire and stuff, and I realized it's actually exactly like that. Like every job I do, even if it's something that I got full control of, you're hunting those shots. Even if it's something that's planned, there's always another shot that you could get that you're like, oh, actually that's cool. Or like events, like any events, like weddings or whatever, you're hunting for like angles and stuff. But
and I mean, like all the shots you fire, like you don't use them all, do you?
Oh shit, no.
Yeah. So, like, actually, on like, just out of curiosity as well, like, do you have any idea how many, like, what the percentage is of shots that is actually like in your mind usable? They'd be like, all right, like these are the shots.
Yeah.
I've shot this event. These are the shots. All of this, I'm not using. This is just whatever. Yeah.
Well, the last job I just did. I'm pretty sure I did 1,500 photos. I delivered 800.
It's not bad. I mean, that's like...
It's not. Sport's worse, actually. So, it depends. I should turn my frame rate down. So it's a very low strike rate, especially when, it's quite low now thinking about it. Because a lot of time you'll shoot. So for the event I just did, I can turn my frame rate down if I don't need much. Like I don't need 14 frames a second of what, But when you're doing sport, you do want to turn it up to get those in-between shots. It's a pretty low percentage that make it, maybe like 25%. If that, it depends on the sport. Like there's a term called spray and pray.
Yeah.
And so I think some of the things like the 100 meters is a bit of spraying, you know.
Yeah.
And what we do is what I do, a lot of people do this too, is you go in and I program the button to click a star. And so you're kind of looking down when there's a bit of break and play, like there always is in sport. There's like a little bit of break, you know, like penalty or stuff like that. And you go in and select the images, and then those are the images you edit. So you press 1 on your software and presto.
Okay, so it's kind of like you do it as you go.
Yeah, for sport, you try to do it as you go. It just saves so much time.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, if you got like 1,500 photos, that's a hell of a lot of photos to go through.
Yeah, well, I did have to on the weekend. Damn it, because of the type of event, like I didn't really have time to go through everything. So yeah, I did. Oh my gosh, it killed me. But yeah, when you're sitting on the side of the track, quite often you've got breaks, a bit of break, and you go through. But it's very low. The amount of images that actually are seen is quite low. Like you might get like a massive sequence and you don't need every image. So you might get 20 shots and maybe use like 3. Yeah.
Like you with Olympics, did you get to stay at the
village?
Where did you get to?
Thank God, no cardboard beds for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was just like, is that true? Like,
I think it is true. At all these things, often the media is separate from the athletes, and that's just little things like, there's journalists with us. There's like, so I work for team, so I'm a bit different. A lot of people work for press. And so it's just that separation as well. And then, of course, we're there a bit later or earlier or having to go more frequent than the athletes. And so, and there's also a different hub for us. So we've got this thing called Press Center, which is a little village for us, which is actually pretty cool. Like this whole, restaurants in there that open 24 hours. And we had like camera stores and like souvenir stores and like all this shit. It was actually mean. We've got different areas. And so we stay different. Like there's like allocated media hotels, or every games that you go to, there's like I just did this for Birmingham, you go in and pick one and stuff. So you don't really see the athletes as such in that regard. Like in the village, you can go in, but most of the stuff, I don't think I've ever been to the village. It's always been like in the stadium. I'd be like, hey, because all my friends as well. So
yeah, no, that's actually quite cool as well. That, you're involved in the scene.
Yeah.
In terms of your kind of international travels, just from a perspective of a person, well, you're still a professional. You're there to do a job, but was there anything that kind of really stood out to you as just something that's like this really really crazy cultural difference or anything like that?
Doha, definitely.
Yeah,
Doha was an eye-opener. So we were quite often, not when you're in these things, you are in a little bit of a bubble. You've got where you stay, and then you go in the bus and you go to the track. There was a group of us who decided, let's go to the market. And I'm so glad I did that. It was just the most eye-opening experience, like a classic market, like in Doha, and there was like the wet markets, there was like the silk market and spice market. That was cool, and just it's like real hard to explain as well, but just like cultural differences, it was like really eye-opening and really cool to see. Every time I go away, I'm always missing home, which is interesting. Like I've realized how much I love New Zealand when I go overseas, but it's amazing to experience all like those different cultures that I get to do it, and that was cool. And just like I know Doha, the thing that really was really eye-opening to me. So there is, people know this, there's like a big class difference in Qatar. So you've got like I think they're called sheiks, locals who are like quite well off. And then you got a lot of people come to work. And then I remember during the day kind of walking around, even though it was hot as fuck, like walking around and everything, you kind of see, like I saw like a lot of different cultures, which was cool. And then it was interesting at night. It was like that night the locals came out. Yeah, and so it's just kind of like, it was really, really interesting and eye-opening seeing like that, and as well seeing that as a woman. So we know over there that like, you got to keep your wits about you as a woman. I was surrounded by photography is all guys, so I had no issues. Like they were, I'm always with guys. It was really cool, but it was really interesting. You can kind of tell just like progression that New Zealand has with just equality in females is when I went over there, definitely like you can see like a little bit, even like real subtle, because like they know you're like from overseas and you've got an accreditation on you, so they're not going to be like rude. But you can definitely see like a little bit of like, I remember in the stadium, there was like in the actual stadium there were no women's toilets because I guess like the women don't watch sport. Yeah.
Interesting. I was going to say women don't go to the toilet. It's what?
I couldn't find one. I mean, maybe there was one tapped away, and then there was like seat sections. So like at the 100 men's, like the 100-meter finish, there was just like a sea of white. And so the guys wore white and the women wore black. Like I should know what it's called, but it was a few years ago, I've forgotten.
Yeah. No, I get what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting. What about like the stadium itself? Is there like female athletes?
Yeah,
I mean, did they account for that?
Yeah, oh, that's the weird thing. Like it was, so this is athletics, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The girls don't wear much. Well, the guys, to be honest. Like it's athletics, right?
Yeah.
And so it was, I don't know. That was like their own bubble. The athletes were your own bubble. Everything was their own bubble, and then
That's so interesting. So it's kind of like, well, look, this is us, this is them.
Yeah.
Y'all can play your sport.
Yeah.
Y'all can have separate toilets. Y'all can wear whatever you need to wear when you play your sport. But over here, we got this other thing going on. And
yeah, totally. Like,
interesting.
When you leave the stadium, you wear pants all the time. You cover your shoulders, and then when you go out and about, like when I went to the markets and stuff, girls, you wear a long skirt. It's hot, so it's actually quite nice to do that, and like making sure your shoulders are covered, and then but it's really interesting that there was like little things that we were told. I can't even remember them all, but that no swearing actually is like a thing over there.
Interesting. What if you're like swearing in a foreign language? How would you know?
I feel like that's fine. Like if you can like curse in like any other language, because everyone speaks English.
All right, okay.
Yeah, so I feel
just don't curse in English.
I remember thinking like when you're in your own bubble, it's kind of fine. But I remember, you just when you're outside and stuff, and like sometimes I'd walk by myself to go to the shops, which wasn't far. It felt like far because it was in like 40-degree heat. But you just got to make sure you're just a little like respecting the culture. There's no alcohol, but some hotels had like their own bar. And it was funny because you see like heaps of locals coming in and drinking beer. But I'm pretty sure it's illegal. It's like, you can't drink.
Well, you're not supposed to. Under, Islamic law, you're not, alcohol's not really part of the religion. That's really interesting. And I mean, I suppose it's down to how observant you are of the religion,
Yes.
It works in various religions to different degrees.
Oh, exactly. It's just cool to see and learn, I think.
It also makes you think as well, like I always see all these people like, these influencers over in like Dubai or some shit. I'm just like, how does that work? Like you always look like you're somewhere getting on the piss at some hotel at some party. Like, how does this work? Like I feel like, I
think Dubai is a little bit more relaxed and that, I think, don't quote me on this, but like maybe there's a lot of expats over there. I don't know, but it's even like Doha, like what you see on TV or whatever, it's like a small snippet. Like it's like two cities, like we're like in the main center of Doha. It's just like a river in the fucking mall. Like it's like holy money. Like I feel poor. Like it is. There's so much cool stuff and so much insane buildings, and then like nice cars and everything like that.
Oh yeah, is it one of those ones where you like have a traffic jam of Lamborghinis or something like that?
But then you go out just like 5 minutes and it's like a completely different country, like just with the buildings and everything like that. It was really interesting. It was like that one little bit is super modern and super flash, and then it just like you kind of we saw it driving to the track and we're like, oh wow, like interesting, really cool. I got to experience like Doha like that. So because
it's funny you mention that too, because I always kind of feel like these kind of places are hit and miss when it comes to enforcing certain things, because you know,
I did not test it.
Well, yeah, it doesn't sound like you want to either, because you know, you hear all these stories about how you know, it's all good, everybody's partying, everybody's drinking, everybody's wearing bikinis, and then somebody gets caught slipping and they're in trouble, and they're in big trouble. You know, you're in public intoxication, and you're not dressed correctly, all of that, and you know, like they're really kind of threaten them with some serious consequences, you know, like jail time and whatnot, like massive fines. It's quite interesting, that whole contrast. It's a very fine line, and it sounds like you can mess it up at any point if you like get too wild.
Yeah, and it's one of those things when you're there for an event as well. You're there like represent, like, because your accreditation is attached to your country, and so you don't.
Oh, like, no, you definitely don't want to fuck this up, because otherwise, you know, it's...
I'm done.
Yeah.
Geez, Alisha's like, what, drunk on the streets of Doha? Yeah, no, I wouldn't do. Oh, God. Like, it's cool. It was cool to kind of, I mean, a lot of these times, these things, you're working as well. So I don't really have time to do any misdemeanor or whatever if I wanted to. But it's just really cool to see different parts of the world and how people live and what's happening, which is it's one fun thing with my job. And actually, when I was in Tokyo, I did get a free day, and I went out to, I'm gonna fuck up the pronunciation of this, Nakano, somewhere in just out of Tokyo, and it just seemed like I stepped into like the Japan. I thought, you know, like you imagine, like it was so cool, and just seeing all the cute little restaurants and little bars, and there was not an English word in sight. Yeah, that was cool as well. And I remember me and my friend, he's from the States, Jeff. We went to a restaurant and like tried to order stuff, and the menu was like handwritten Japanese, and so none of our Google Translates work. And so we're sitting there going, what's this? But it's like those stories and like that stuff is like kind of like the nice icing on the cake with these jobs. And like I'm pretty sure we got lost at one point. He's gonna say, no, we didn't. I know we were going, but yeah, it's fun.
Have you seen anything like? Have you witnessed anything crazy happening? Like something you saw and you're like, whoa, you know, like. I don't know, because like to me, I can't remember which Olympics it was. It might have been Rio. I remember there was like this whole thing of with people getting robbed all the time.
Oh, Rio, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of glad I didn't go to Rio. That was a thing. I think I've heard stories of media getting their cameras swiped.
Yeah.
Especially just like, because there's times when you have to walk from your station to your hotel, things like that. I've definitely heard stories. Oh, not Birmingham's like. Probably not like that, but yeah. Now you got me thinking like, oh God. But no, I've heard there's definitely worse stories. If you were in a group of people, I think it was fine, but going on your own is like, So that was Rio, and I think London had terrorism threats.
Yeah. No, I do remember that. There was something around that. I think someone even got arrested for it. Like, I don't think it was actually legit in terms of like. Of the threat itself, like whether it was going to happen, but I think somebody just went crazy, said something, and ended up getting arrested for it.
So thank God, I've never seen anything in that kind of space where I've been like actually scared. So lucky. Like I think where a team was saying that Tokyo is probably the least risk. Like the only thing was COVID. But in terms of like anything else, like things like, you know, terrorism I think they were outside of their tidal wave season or something. So that was okay. But it was, in terms of that.
The whole tsunami thing.
Yeah. Apart from that, like I think they were saying that if we didn't have COVID, it would have been the breeziest games ever.
Yeah.
Because it was like zero risk. But because I think Japan is even rated safer than New Zealand, I think. Which is cool.
I wouldn't be surprised. It just sounds like a really chill country. I would love to visit one day.
It's lovely, and that's the other thing, the people in Tokyo are just gorgeous. They are such lovely people. They just want to help. So that was cool. So I haven't experienced anything like that yet.
Well, it's a nice little review because I know my mom watches these things and I know she really wants to go to Japan. She's even learning Japanese right now.
No way.
So shout out to my mom.
Hey, go. It's super fun. Do it.
Yeah. No, that's really awesome. In terms of, like, so where you are in your career right now, where can you see yourself going from this point? Because, like, you're pretty high up. Like, where else can we go with this? What do we photograph? Yeah.
I guess it's now turning into the kind of thing of just making it a sustainable business, because it's like one of the things that's, if you can go on your own, freelance on your own, that is kind of like living the dream as such. And so it's just, where can you go from there in terms of just business? I'm always like hunting down another cool project that I can do, or another awesome partnership or a brand or an organization that I can actually work for, which is awesome. But I think now you're getting to the point where I'm had my fun, like I know these past, like, how many years? 5 or something like that. 5 or so years, it's been like, like I really want to shoot this event and I really want to have fun and grow my craft. That's the other thing. And now it's kind of, you're getting into that next stage of life where now I'm like, I want to grow my craft and have a sustainable business that I can just grow and grow, whether it's like, growing to, it's like I'm kind of getting to a point now where it's like a team as such. And so if I can't make a job, I can send someone out for me. And there's a really cool network of photographers. Like, for example, one of my friends, I was helping out his company because one of his people was sick. And then he called me like, oh, I'm sick. So it was like a 2-man job. And then I found someone in my network that could come out on his behalf. So his company had no one from his company there. Like, it was just me and someone else. So that's kind of like, I'm getting to the point where I'm wanting to expand as well. And then I've also kind of started a little, like, kind of like a production company, which is more in sport. And so maybe going to more directorial role, rather than just hands on the camera. And then, like, directing projects would be kind of fun as well. That's a good segue to go into when you're like manning big teams on projects and stuff, or being like so there's cinematographer or director of photography who's like, okay, so for like ads and stuff, they're like responsible for the look of the image. So I don't really actually doing the camera work, but because I know camera work as well, you can work in that space. So there's a lot of like, it's just like you can go so sideways with this. So it's just how do I want to grow? How do I want to sustain myself, earn a living while continuously like pushing my craft, which is a good way to be honest. So
it sounds pretty interesting. In terms of especially, because you mentioned like videography and stuff like that, but like, from kind of almost like a director's point of view, is that something you would consider? Because it sounds like,
maybe.
I don't know, for some reason like a light bulb went off in my head and I'm like, you could make documentaries, because I mean everybody loves a Dan Carter documentary, Mark Hunt documentary, we love a sports documentary.
No, like there's quite a lot of video sports projects I do as well. So I would say 80% of my work is photography, the other 20% is videography, which is cool. Video is like a whole new beast as well. I used to hate it. I'm growing to actually really love it. Like telling a story, and the way you shoot is different. That's the other thing, which is cool because it kind of forces you to think a little bit more laterally and that kind of stuff, and then how you're gonna like tackle shots. And so but video is a complete other beast, and you can make documentaries, short films, even just like little pieces. Like I've made pieces where it's kind of like day in the life of an athlete, which is kind of like a more chill doco that's like really kind of showing like behind the scenes stuff for YouTube that people like quite like to watch and people's lives and stuff. And so I can go into that space. That's a space I quite like to do as well, like kind of that level of video and just telling stories from like a real intimate kind of view. So I don't know, there's so much you can do.
I think you should. You should. It sounds like you'd be good at it. I feel like your personality would transfer well into it as well, because I think as a person directing these things, again, it's like you said, you bring your energy to it, and especially when we're talking about videos, so it's not just kind of capturing a moment, like you kind of have to provide that energy for extended periods of time. I think you'd be really good at that.
Yeah, it'd be cool to kind of, I'm starting to get in that little space as well. And even like I do love, so, you know, you got your event photography where you're like more of a hunter and you're like hunting like shots, you know, stuff like that. But I do also like being on set and directing a scene, being like, I'll put this light here, you do this, and then, oh, can you like act this? Like, and it's for stills, right? And I've like, you know, sometimes I work with kids as well, and I'm like, oh, can you like, yeah, like full directing, and it's just for stills. So I could probably translate that into video, because you're right, you have to be a very people person if you want to be like a director. Well, I mean, not necessarily, but it helps. Get the vibe in.
It definitely helps.
Make the crew happy. Make the person you're shooting happy. That's the other thing, because, you know, like sometimes I'm used to working with athletes who aren't necessarily actors or models. And so, like, trying to get that energy, like, you're doing a great job, and the poor bastard's probably like out of their comfort zone, going, I have to do this stupid thing for my bloody sponsor, you know. Yeah, and it's kind of like bringing the energy to give confidence to them. Yeah, it could be cool. I could be keen.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And I mean, like, no, I totally agree with you there as well, because not a lot of people know about this, but I was actually, I was an extra on Power Rangers.
Oh, shit. No way.
Yeah, so I was, you know, I was like a combat extra at that. So I wasn't just like a guy sitting there. Like, I actually got to be in a few of the fight scenes.
Oh, do you have like a screen grab and you're like in the background? It's like, that's me.
Well, the thing is, you can't actually see my face because it's all like, you know, you're all geared up and you have the mask on and everything. But, you know, like, it's interesting to witness that firsthand. You realize just how much work goes into these things, how long a fucking scene takes to shoot. God, man, like, that takes forever.
Especially something like that. Oh my God.
The amount of takes, you know, like something goes wrong, someone forgets their lines, you know, some move that goes wrong.
And then you got all the camera angles anyway. So, Whoa.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, somebody that's directing you makes a huge difference, because over the time that I've done it, I've got to work with a number of different people, and you could always tell the difference. You know, ones that were kind of, you know, with you on this, and you just found these things a lot easier. And then you got others that are just kind of like over the acting as if you kind of owe them something, and they start being dicks to you, and you're just like, ugh. You know, like bad vibes. Just want to get it over and done with.
No.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's the thing with like sets and stuff like that, is if you if you have a good retention of your crew, it kind of shows you how like the directors are and stuff. That's cool though.
Yeah.
That's something I thought, like, no one knows this, but when I thought that would be fun to do, like, extra work, especially like with going through uni and everything, just if you're like in the background of a scene, you know, you get to like you get to dress up, like, and just be there.
Just like it's a great experience. It's a great experience. The only thing is, you do have to be prepared to sit around a lot. You know, like when they need you, and when they don't, you're gonna sit there for like 2 hours just waiting, and you can't go anywhere either, because it's like, well, you don't know when they're gonna need you. Because you know, you got to remember the director and everything like that. Like, they're an artist, you know, like, so they're over there. It's like, okay, now I need someone there, go find them. And, you know, them better be there and ready to go and dressed. You know, so you sit there with all your, like, Power Ranger
that's so cool, though.
armor on and everything, and you got this, like, big-ass poncho over you so you don't get cold, because it was winter at the time.
Oh, shit, okay,
Yeah, so, you know, like, and you're kind of, you're wearing all this random stuff, like this, like, wetsuit material, like... It was crazy.
That's cool. That's a cool experience. Like, that could be something, like, I'm always about how can I keep learning as well, and being on that side could be kind of fun. Actually, maybe like when I'm quiet, which never happens, chuck myself in for a bit of that. But that sounds cool.
And actually, it was interesting too, because it was a joint production between the US and Japan. So the actors, like, without the costumes, were American, and everyone under the costumes was Japanese. And they were essentially stunt people. They were Japanese stunt people. Man, these guys were crazy. They were so amazing. I remember shooting a scene where, like, I just kind of had to run into battle, like I had my sword and everything, and there's the Red Power Ranger running next to me. And then out of the blues, he does this massive like flip.
Holy
like,
shit.
The guy was like up to my shoulder too. He's a very small dude.
Yeah.
And he just jumped like above my height and did this massive flip like right next to me. And I'm just like, we're in the middle of a scene, but I'm like, I can't help but be a bit like, holy shit. Like, yeah.
See, that's so cool. Oh yeah, those stunt guys are insane.
Yeah.
Like some of the things you do, like that's so cool and stuff. That's cool to be part of as well. Like see it firsthand and be like, oh my gosh. Like,
yeah, and you got your little like like fires going off and whatnot. So it's just like it's a pretty amazing atmosphere. But yeah, I gotta say like that's probably the more enjoyable part of it. I can't say I enjoyed the actor part as much. And you also get to see actors behind the scenes, and like how you kind of you get this perception about how like a lot of actors are like dicks behind the scenes, and I mean it was kind of a bit like that. Where it's kind of like once they snap out of the role, it's just like, oh yeah, no, fuck all of you, I don't like you. That's kind of how it goes. They go from being this like in character happy person to just being
that's like I've definitely heard stories of that, and you find like a show that's got like a stupid retention rate because it's probably like everyone's like, oh my god, finally, like, and then everyone just sticks and stuff. But I mean, hey, that's all good experience for you to see and know firsthand, and
that was really crazy. It was funny too because one of the scenes that we shot was right behind the high school I went to.
Oh, what school?
Masterland College.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, hey.
Yeah. So it's there was a park behind there, and they used that as like a alien invasion scene. Yeah.
I love that. Was it green screened, or was it just, I guess people just kind of added in like?
No, it wasn't green screened. It was all there. So you kind
sweet.
of. You have like a park, and you have all these extras walking around in like civilian clothing, and then before you know it.
Now I'm like actually picturing what the scene would be. Yeah,
and like I think the funniest thing is because pre-production it actually looks really stupid.
Oh yeah,
like especially when it comes to like Power Rangers, you have all these like characters with wacky costumes. It's kind of like this theme park costumes where there's like a man wearing a big ass shell with massive like crab hands, and he's walking, and it's just like, man, it looks so dumb. But then like post-production it actually looks legit. There's all this like lightning and stuff shooting out of him, and every time he steps the whole screen shakes, so he's like this massive like huge alien
lightning coming off it. That's so funny because that's like also, so they have like when you have like creatures that you're talking to that are like added in post-production, and the actors have to act like a tennis ball on a stick. Is like I know Game of Thrones, like the dragons are like like a ball on a stick.
That's what it is, and it's just like when you're there you're like, man, this looks so ridiculous. But like when you see it like when you see the completed version, it looks it looks impressive, it looks legit. Like they're actually talking to someone. There is something there like interacting with them. It's I mean it's really an amazing kind of industry, so to speak. Just this whole
like hats off to the actors that have to act to a tennis ball.
Like
they must just have like the most insane imagination. They can just imagine like, I don't know, tennis ball is like a
like in their mind it's an actual dragon. Hey,
that's something. That's a whole that's just a whole new thing that I haven't even looked like that TV film industry. That could be something like film. So you can do you would have seen them like the stills photographer who's kind of there's probably lots of things around, but it's being there and just capturing like the stills on set. That could be fun as well. That could be a fun thing I like to do as well.
In fact, it probably sounds like it'll probably be more fun than actually. It'll be a little less stressful. It'll be a bit more enjoyable and a little less stressful.
So you can kind of like play a little bit here and like kind of see, and the lighting's all done for you, and you're kind of just sitting there being like a little bit of like a shadow, and just like trying to see like different things. And now cameras, you can get silent ones too, so that's easy. Maybe I don't know. I've got so many different like things I would love to do. Like I'm pretty open. Like a kind of job comes and I'm like, I'll do it. Like I'm not really like, There are people who are like, no, I'm only doing this. I only do this. I just go, oh, here's a quote. You want me? I'll do it. Like, I'm shooting buses on Friday.
Buses?
Yeah, new buses. So...
What, is it for like Auckland Transport or...?
I think, no, it's not for Auckland Transport. It's for... Who is it for? I don't know if I can say, actually. Lol. But hey, I'm shooting, I'm shooting like a bus line. And so that's different. Like, I remember it was someone posted on Facebook and I just replied, like, here's my website, so like this girl does. Because that's the thing, like, someone commented to me, I was on another podcast, and like it was a photography podcast, and he said, your Instagram says sport, but then I went out to your website and what the hell, you do so much other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't get bored, and then I kind of just say yes to everything because I enjoy like spreading my brain over different industries. Like, it's all pretty much people based, so that's great. I get to meet people. That's the funnest thing. But yeah, it's funny. So I'm like, I'll do anything. Like,
and where there's photos to be taken, you best believe it.
Exactly. And sometimes it's kind of fun when you jump outside your comfort zone and like haven't done something before, and then you haven't shot something before or shot the style before, and you're kind of like, all right, let's see what happens. And yeah, it's kind of good. I think it's good for you. It's good to train your brain. Like,
I mean, it expands your skill set as well, because you're not kind of just like, oh, I can do sports photography. I can't do anything else. I've never done it. I'm not confident. Like, you literally can do just about anything. So that's great. Yeah, see, you're the red hot chili pepper of photography.
Cool. Done. Fuck, that's a compliment.
You have your own podcast too, don't you?
I do. It's called the Zoom Show. It's co-host with my friend Hayden Sherman. So Hayden he's a running coach as well, but he quite often commentates on all the athletics events. So there's like a few, like it's quite often it's on Sky Sport Next or Sky Sport. And you'll have like one of their reporters and then what we call like the expert. And so Hayden's quite often commentating that as well. And then, he approached me going, I love to host a podcast. I will never commentate an athletics meet. I think people would be pretty pissed off if I was behind the mic and not out there taking pictures. I'd be like, what? We don't want to hear her talking about this. Like, we want her photos. So that will never happen. But yeah, so I've done 3 episodes. It's been fun. I've been in more podcasts than hosting, but that's fine. But yeah, so it's pretty much like a nerd out athletics podcast, and we just go through what's happening during the week. Yeah. And then it's like the time we geek out on air, and it's like an hour.
Nice.
Of mostly me talking shit, but it's fine.
No, I mean, that's what makes it fun, right?
Oh, exactly. Like, it's uncut, like it's just, so it's cool. So yeah, I'm delving into podcast hosting now. God.
No, see, no. This is one like multifaceted, talented person to have on the show here tonight.
People are like, so you what? So like what? Like they're like, so what are you? Like photographer, podcast host? I'm like, I know, bloody hell. Meme expert? No. But it's like, it's cool. It's something different. It's something fun. It's something like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm really happy you got to bring your story to my show tonight. I think it's important to remember, like, my biggest takeaway from it all is at the end of the day, it's still very inspiring. You know
good.
What I mean?
I'm glad.
Because just to recap, you went from kind of not really giving a shit, didn't want to buy the camera, didn't want to buy the MacBook. Went and got it. Now we're like, oh shit, like this is something really cool this is what I love doing. And then you actually kind of, you didn't just kind of start doing it, you kind of really backed yourself and took a jump, you invested in yourself, you backed yourself to go into the deep end, and you came out on the other side, like
okay, not drowned.
More than okay. Like you're doing well. You're doing great things, and you're most importantly, you're enjoying life.
I think that's the most important. I identified when I was I think I was at uni. I don't know where I was. There's the social norm that you go and do your 9 to 5 and blah blah blah. And I really early on, I did my postgrad diploma in communications. I'm wondering if I kind of did that. I wanted to go in that space, but I wanted to avoid that path. Like I was just a bit like, I identified really early on that I'm not born to sit at a desk all day. Like, cannot do that, you know. So, and I'm not, you know, I don't want to live this linear, like I don't want to do the same thing every day. And so I think identifying like, no, not me, then I've just been like, okay, let's do not that. So now it's like, I'm not at my desk.
Well, it's a cool vision, you know, you kind of stuck to it. It's something we talked about on my previous episode, you know. Every great achievement starts with a great vision.
Yeah.
So
and then having the balls to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Just kind of backing yourself and taking the jump. Well, you know, like in terms of being essentially self-employed. You know, like how big of a deal was it for you to kind of actually do that? Because you know, like it's I like to talk to people about these things because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that, you know, have dreams and that want to kind of make that jump. That, you know, like there's plenty of people out there that don't want to kind of be stuck at a job and be grinding and be sitting down all day. They have dreams, they have visions, but you know, like it's a scary thing to make that jump. Like, you know, what got you through it?
That was my scariest jump, actually. I think because you're going from something, I think I was lucky. So I know a lot of people who are like that, and they working somewhere else and they love photography and they're doing it on the weekend after their 9 to 5. And so hats off, good on you. I think I was a bit lucky that I started from nothing while I was still studying. So it was still like I just kind of grew it gradually, nurtured it like a plant. Like it just kind of grew and grew and grew. But I was working, it was so hard. So I kind of got down to working 1 day a week. Now, anyone who wants to dive into this world, I do recommend that you do keep something going part-time, even just to pay the bills. So I remember like it was not much a week, fuck all, to be honest. Like it was just 1 day working, but it was kind of like I knew that money was coming into my bank account every week. And I remember getting to the point, so I used to work a couple of days or 3 days, and then it cut down. So I would work 3 days, and then once I finished uni, and I would have the rest of my week, as in the whole week. That's the other thing, like days off, what are those? Because your days off are generally fueling your side hustle kind of thing. And I eventually dropped my hours. I remember it was 2019 and I was getting like really busy. And I've been like, no, like I want to keep this 1 day a week job because it's good networking. Like I was a receptionist at physio. Can you imagine me being a receptionist? I did fuck all when someone came in. I literally, if my computer was here, I would turn and face the client who comes in, and I could always tell if they were keen for a yarn. And if they were, but how are you? And then sometimes they'd be like, how's your photography going? I'm like, bloody hell, I've told way too many people about my life. But you know, and the physio's late or whatever, and I've made some pretty good connections sitting there talking to the clients. And then I've even got jobs out of it. So I remember thinking like, I'm not going to let that go because it's good networking. And it wasn't until it was actually my Athletics New Zealand manager and her husband, who now I work with heaps on this sports content production called Ep13. And they kind of not bullied me, but kind of bullied me into saying quit. Because it got to a point where I didn't want to let that go because I was like, it's my safety net. But then their argument was, you're wasting. It got to a point where my day off work was working at the physio. So then I was like, okay, you're not actually having a day off. And then I'm sitting there going like, no, I'm going to die. Like I'm going to have a quiet bit, you know. The quiet bit never happened. And I was sitting, I was like, just September or something. I was just about to leave for World Champs in Doha. And then one day, and after, you know, these two, you know, super supportive, love them, the fact that they push, you know, you need people that kind of push you, and they were saying, like, you're so busy, you're getting all this work, like, make the leap and stuff. And the other thing is I lived at home, and so I did have that, like, safety as well, which is always, like, quite nice if something did fuck out, like, they're not going to kick me out. But yeah, I remember that was the scariest thing ever, handing in my resignation, because then suddenly it was like, that's it, like you're on your own. And then, they were right, because I got busier, because I could use that time properly. Even just basic stuff, like using that time to recharge. Because like a creative, you can't force creativity, right? So you have to recharge your brain like a battery. Like if you're going full steam every single day, your ideas go shit. Like I notice when I'm like maybe towards a little bit too much work or too much, like I need to sit like a potato and watch Netflix all day. Like I need to have a potato day. As I notice, like sometimes when I'm shooting and I'm like, these are shit. Like, you know, I'm not snappy, because like even on sets and stuff, I have to pull shit out my ass on cue. Like it's like one of those things, like you're on, like people are watching you and you have to think of your scenes straight away. Like you don't have much time to sit down all the time and open your little book. You know, you just go. And so, yeah, best decision I made was obviously quitting all work, but it was the fucking hardest thing I did. Just letting off that safety, like letting off the training wheels and being like, ooh.
Yeah, and so, I mean, so all in all, you're happy you did it, yeah? So
I'm so happy. Like my biggest regret was not doing it sooner.
Yeah.
Which is always, that means you know it's the good decision. But like my advice for people wanting to kind of do this is, find something, or even there's a lot of studios, for example, that hire part-time content creators. Because they don't need someone full-time, but they need someone, or even just doing the editing, or even just somewhere you can learn, because like Auckland's too expensive to just leave your life and then, you know, try this photography thing. Like we're not going to sugarcoat it unless you've got like a huge financial buffer. That's the other thing, is if you can like kind of have a safety net so you can live, because that is stressful, and then kind of let your passion go and do its thing. But yeah, like it is scary. I'm not gonna lie. There's no easy way to do it.
No, that's pretty cool. And
I still stress.
Of course, you know, like whenever you run your own thing, there's always going to be that element. In terms of how long you've been at this now, how long have you been a photographer where you could call myself a photographer?
Not a person with a camera who doesn't know how to use it. I feel like my first professional gig was 2014. I did the classic 21st. Now I was 21 in 2014. And I started photographing my friend's 21st. I think that's a lot of people's first thing that they do if they're around that age. So that's pretty young. And then from there, I started getting picked up by my federation. So that's Athletics New Zealand. And I started doing professional sports photography for them. So maybe, we can say maybe 2000. I mean, I can't really call that professional level. Maybe 2015 is when I say I could actually like started this.
So it's like, a solid 7 years.
Yeah, it's been a marathon. I'll tell you that right now. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, some people get lucky and they can just make a massive break. But I've had so 2015, 2016, I was studying I studied my postgrad part-time because this was brewing in the background. I'm glad I had half a brain to do that. So then instead of just I could still brew my freelance. It was not enough to go full-time, but I was studying because I don't know what my plan was, but whatever. And then, kids, whatever you're doing at uni doesn't actually matter what you do in real life. Lesson 1. And I was brewing this kind of freelancing to the point then I had this other job as well going along to the point where my last year of uni, so I did part-time postgrad, feels like full-time undergrad, to be honest. It's hell. My last year, I remember it was like one of those things where I would do no work and then I'd block out my last 2 weeks of work because I was working at the physio and then I was also growing my freelance. I'd block out my life for 2 weeks and just get all my freaking assignments done. But I'd grown it to the point, and then 2017, I got a really lucky break. So not only I had a midlife crisis and spent too much money to go to London, I actually picked up a big contract with Nike. So it was like weekly work with them, which was actually what paid for it, essentially.
Nice.
And stuff. And I was really lucky, and that's been an amazing break from there because I started being like, oh, that's the girl who does the Nike work, which is cool. Saying that is always fun. And that also came because they had Run Club down in Britomart and I was one of the pacers. And then someone got wind that I was a photographer, and then like, segue, you know. And I was just running with my friends. Like, I just enjoy the social side of it. And then suddenly that network blended in, and then that kind of led to more stuff. And when that ended, you kind of got your name out there enough, and it kind of just went. But I remember, like, I had a really quiet year where I didn't think I could do this. That was actually 2018, which was why in 2019 I was a bit hesitant of quitting, because I was thinking that lull is coming, you know, and that lull didn't come until we went into lockdown.
Yeah. Well,
So it's kind of like, yeah.
with COVID, it's just going to happen to everyone.
No one can help that. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that you can get lucky, but I know people who have got luckier. And there's some people who don't, but...
Yeah, but I mean, you know, if I'm the person that's just looking at this, I feel like, you know, I prefer your story than the person that got lucky, you know, because you know, like your example is,
cool, like
you know, one that, you know, it's just like, it shows that it can work, that you can make it work. It's not luck or, you know, being given something. It's just like, back yourself, make the jump, you know, go for it, get it done, be prepared, you know, like, because that's the other thing that I'm taking from this is it's not, you know, like, this isn't just like, oh, you know, make the jump and hope that you make it. Like, you know, you have to have that one day job, you have to have a bit of savings, you have to have these things, you know, because I think that's what a lot of these you know, like, I don't even know what to call it, but all this like inspiration culture that you see all over social media. I think these are the bits that it kind of glosses over and cuts out. It's all about like, make the jump, go for it, motivate yourself, go for it, you know. But at the end of the day, like, the danger's still there.
Have
you know,
your
like,
brain on you still, like.
Exactly, because, you know, like, they say don't be afraid of failure, which is fine.
You have to be prepared to fail, though.
But like, what happens if you do? You know, It's not about how hard you fall, how hard you get up, but make sure you can get up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I agree. There's all this shit on social media. That's the other thing. Social media is like, oh, have you seen this? There was a meme, and it was like a picture of alcohol, and the real life, it was like those little alcohols. Like, it was like, social media is like the tiny little slither of what's going on in people's lives. Like, I try to be pretty so I'm glad we're having this conversation. I try to be pretty transparent, like, because it's not all lollipops and candy canes. Like, shit, no, you know, like, I remember like little sacrifices here and there. Like, for example, like, I can tell people this, I said I'm looking at buying a house, right, with a friend, and I decided like a year ago or something, I'm not going to move out until I go into my own place. Like, I kind of made that call. And the other thing is, I've had a lot of people, right, so there's that whole social kind of status and stuff. I had a lot of people be like, oh, you're still living at home when you're like 23 or something. And I was like, yeah, I'm growing my business. And so it's kind of like those little sacrifices people have to be prepared to make in order to kind of make the jump. And then those same people are shocked that I'm actually looking at buying. And I'm like, well, do the math. Like, how did you save your deposit? I lived at home. You know, kind of stuff like that.
It's it is. You know, it literally is that.
Thanks
it's not
to my parents not kicking me out. Thank you.
Well, you know, but it's still that whole, you know, it's just not being flashy. Like, it's always nice, especially when you're young, to kind of be like, oh, well, you know, I'm the man. I got this going on. I got that. I got all the, you know, all the cool shit. I've got, you know, my own place, whatever. You know, like, I can afford everything that, you know, is seen as making me look like I've got my shit together.
Yeah.
You know, and then you got the other person that's just, you know, grinding away at a dream. Then, you know, they don't go out. They don't show up to half the shit. They're always busy, you know, like, oh, we're doing this fun thing. And, you know, like, you're like, no, I can't, I'm sorry, I can't make it. I've got shit to do. I'm too busy.
Yeah.
I got a day job. And then after that day job, I got to go and do something else, you know. And, you know, and people always look at them as just like, oh, you know, look at this guy, you know, he's always busting his ass, you know, it's kind of like hard done by in life. And then a few years down the line, something pays off.
Exactly.
But, you know, the people that you were hanging out with before, they're lucky to be in the same place.
Yeah.
Because most people as they age, you know, like, these things deteriorate. Like, it's all fun and games when, you know, when you're 21 and out partying all the time, but then, you know, like, your 30s creep up on you, and
Yeah.
You know, like you ain't got the same energy. You got different commitments.
Yep. Exactly.
You know, things start to get a bit more serious, and you know, life gets harder for those people.
It does, and I think also I've been really lucky in just surrounding myself with the right people, because it's kind of like life is like sport. Again, I make a sport analogy, that's what I do, but it's like when you're an athlete, it's 90% shit, and you have to make so many sacrifices to get there. You're going to fail more times than you don't, and like participating in sport my whole life, I kind of got that. You know, half the reason I started this athletics photography is because I was like always injured. Nice, but hey, like, you know, like classic, like always injured. But it's the same thing. Like, yeah, you have to be prepared to make those sacrifices. Yeah, don't go out maybe partying every weekend. I'm not saying you can't party, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like spending all this money or doing this, it's like big picture goals, and a lot of athletes think like that as well. And so it's just adopting that same thing. And I think there's a big saying, it's like you are who you hang out with. So my close circles they've always been so supportive of what I do, which is amazing. They've never been like, oh, what are you doing for life, blah, blah, blah. You know, they've always believed in my vision. You know, even if they can't see it themselves, they've believed in me and like support me and what I'm doing. And I think that's like the most important things. I'm lucky. I've got bloody awesome friends.
Exactly. See, I've said this before, and I'm going to say this again. I've said this on Instagram. I've said this on my podcast. Support your motherfucking friends.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you don't understand what they're doing, you know, just trust them on it.
Yep.
If you ain't gonna kind of help them in the vision, at least give them some support.
You heard it here first. No,
look,
so
I really appreciate you coming through tonight. It's been a really insightful and really inspiring story. That was a really great conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And this is my first time I've been in an in-person podcast, and it's so cool. Like, so thank you for inviting me to, you know, your little studio.
Thank you. One time for your mind.